So my name is Jen. I live in a little town that probably nobody's ever heard of called Leesburg. I was the main support system for my own father. Unfortunately, he did pass 2 years ago, but it became my mission to help others through this journey. So I do have quite a few clients that I support. And my dad had vascular as well as Alzheimer's dementia. So would you mind sharing?
Sorry.
It's okay.
My name's Mamai. I live in Medford here. I provide support for my mother and father, and my mom goes to the tender here. She has Alzheimer's dementia.
Okay.
My father has just a tiny bit of dementia, but he has Parkinson's, but he lives with us too.
Okay.
Do they live? Oh yeah. And what? Yeah.
You answered it. Great job.
I'm her husband.
Hi, I'm Allie. I live in Morristown, and I provide care for my mom. She has vascular dementia, diagnosed a couple years ago. She comes here to the tender. She's been life-saving, I think, for both of us. She lives alone, very close to me, but her living alone is one of the challenges. So outside of the tender, I pay for like private caregivers as well for some of that bridge care, but it's a challenge.
Gotcha. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing.
My name is Linda. I live in West Hampton. I am a caregiver for my husband, 54 years, and we live together, and I'm able to take care of him so far. And what type of dementia? I'm not really sure.
It's okay. Not everybody has a true diagnosis. Sometimes we know it's under that umbrella.
My name is Giselle. I live here in Mount Laurel. I provide support for my husband, who does live with me, and he has young onset dementia, started at the age of 59 and given kind of like an official diagnosis at the age of 61.
Thank you for sharing.
My name is Rob. I live in Burlington Township, close to Libna. It wouldn't be a nice word together. Provide care for my mother, who does live with me, and moderate stage dementia was diagnosed in 2022.
Thank you.
My name is Joe, and recently moved back from Maine to Southampton. I provide support for my wife, Jean, and she lives with me, and she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for sharing. So we're going to move into our first video, which is called Taking Stock of Our Own Abilities.
Well, you're on this journey. It's time to take stock. It's time to take stock of yourself. What are you good at? What are you not so good at? And the first thing we got to talk about is if you don't do this, if you don't give yourself a chance to figure this out, you're actually increasing your own risks for negative health impacts. Taking stock of what are you like? How is your health now? Because with this journey, if you cannot figure out how to do this in a healthy way, you're gonna find your cortisol level goes up a lot. Cortisol is a negative stress hormone. And it's a negative stress hormone that increases the risk that you'll start building in abdominal fat. You'll get chunky around the middle, not around the bottom, around the middle. And that means your organs are picking that up, and it increases your risk of heart attack, of stroke, of blood pressure problems, blood sugar problems, and even there's an increased risk of cognitive problems. Without the right kind of support for yourself and not noticing things, that sleeping problem you have, the eating problem you've got, the inability to focus, to concentrate, at first it may just feel like, well, that happens to anybody. But it turns out for people supporting people living with dementia, your risk of developing your own cognitive issues, be it depression, anxiety, or dementia, increases dramatically unless you can recognize, I need support. I need to take care of myself. And what you need is going to be uniquely yours. We've got to figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at. You need to take stock of where you have skills and where you don't have skills. Not everybody's meant to be a hands-on care provider for a person living with dementia. You can love someone deeply and not be a good match-up for care, but it doesn't mean you don't care. It means that you may be the organizer of care. You may be the person who figures out the financial pieces. You may be the one who deals with the insurance company, or maybe you're the person who works on housing and housing support. Maybe you're transportation, or maybe you're the one who figures out the medications or deals with the hospital stay. We won't know what your role is until you look down at yourself, look out at yourself, look around you, and see what your resources are. And if you don't have resources, recognize I am gonna need some help here. Because no one human being should try to support another human being 24/7. And when we start this journey, nobody thinks it's gonna be a 24/7 commitment. But by the end of the journey, and through periods of this journey, it may very well be a 24-period commitment. 24 hours, 7 days a week. No one can do that. And neither can the person living with dementia tolerate you or themselves 24/7. But the reality is, with dementia, I never know when it's going to be a long day, a short day. And not everyone has the freedom to simply focus on that individual and that job and that work. They may have work that they go to. They may have family that they're trying to support. They may have responsibilities in other areas. Whatever your story is, it is super important that you take stock. What does the person need now? What can you offer now? But who else could you involve? Now's a good time to look around. Look at yourself, look around, so you can figure out what you have, what you don't have, and who you might need to bring into the mix. And if you don't know, now's a good time to ask. There are people out there who've been down this road, this journey before. Doesn't mean it's your journey. Yours will be unique. But there are people who can help you build resilience, because when we've been through something, we contribute to the whole. And my suggestion, strong suggestion, is look at yourself, look around, and see where you are. You have strengths, but you also have areas that you're not so good at. And that may mean you need somebody who is good. So for you, this is a time of investing in yourself, investing in the situation. And I'm not just talking funds, I'm talking pay attention to how things are going for you, and check in regularly for yourself and everyone involved, because this will be an ever-changing landscape. And it's time to take stock, episodically.
So, taking that in and kind of digesting it, I want everybody to take your paper, and if you need a piece of scrap paper, feel free to take one from that tablet. And I want you to write down one of your strengths, something you're good at. And then I also want you to write down something that you need help with, or an area that you're looking to change. So I'll give everybody a few minutes to... Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Now, with what you're good at and what you need help with, is it just encompassing the care of a loved one, or?
It's you as a whole, but yes, it does. Yeah, but I mean, a lot of times our own personal quirks and strengths benefit us, or they hinder us when we're talking about providing support for somebody with brain changes. So it can be either or. So I'm going to ask everybody to share their strength and share the thing that they need to work on or that they have difficulty with. So I'll start. My strength is I have all the patience in the world for somebody with brain changes. My weakness is that, or the thing that I need to work on, is that I forget that I'm not a silo, that there are people that I can lean on when I'm supporting others, and I need to embrace that a little bit more. How about we go this way, Joe?
So I wrote down I'm good at organization and planning. On a daily basis, I organize how the day's gonna go out, you know, what's for breakfast, what am I making for lunch, dinner, whatever. And I need help with, like, I guess, patience is one thing I need help with, and the other one is, sometimes I have a problem, even though I'm organized, making decisions.
Thank you.
I wrote down goal-oriented and resilient, and also with you too, patience is a big thing of mine that I need help with, and emotional support.
Okay.
I was always good at household, like managing household things, but I find myself doing things that were never really my job to do. So I'm proud that I've been able to really embrace that role and kind of get things so that the house runs efficiently, the bills are paid, taking care of things that I never really had to worry about. So I'm good at that. But I do need help with finding ways to engage him.
Okay.
During the day, which is one of the reasons the tenders has been a godsend to me because he is young.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard because the things that engaged him in the past, he's unable to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggle with what is it that's going to make him engaged and happy.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
Okay, my strength, organization and planning. My husband used to do all of that, but he was in business and so able to pick up and just do that without a lot of struggle. Patience and being in the moment with him. Sometimes it is just hard to relate to him and communicate with him. I'll give you a real quick example. I'm real quick. Okay, his taste buds have changed, and everything is spicy or hot. So I have decided I'm not going to use any spices on your food at all. And today, before I left, I did some fish, and I told him I'm gonna put a toothpick in yours, so you'll know which one is yours. He ate mine, and I'm like, I had salt and pepper on mine, and he says, well, it was too hot. But we had already discussed this, and this is like the third time he's done it. Patience, okay. It's hard.
I can relate to that. I'm also good at setting up systems and automating things. I have like timed med robot and any of those routine things is a strength. And I found similarly, I think the amount of effort I put into automating things and setting up a support system is like my full bandwidth. And I end up being the least, I have nothing left over for like the emotional part with my mom. And so I'm not like yelling at her, but I find myself like just not being as expressive and warm as I would have in the past. And I think in terms of the work, I have trouble with the non-routine things, like if there's a change in insurance and trying to make sure I'm sure I'm not taking advantage of all the resources that are available, right, beyond the routine stuff that I know of. And I'm also really struggling with like focus and presence. Always having in the back of my mind, like, is she okay? Is she dialing 911 right now? Because she's stressed and scared, and it makes it hard to be in the moment at work or in my own life.
Thank you.
I'm good with applying medical care, like with her, you know, she has like hemorrhoids or something, and physical medical care, things that she can't do for herself. Someone has to do them for her that's private, and I have to do that for her. I can give her physical touch, you know, how they like to be touched, and I can do that for her. Sometimes it's difficult to do that because, you know, she's different from my mom growing up, and, you know, I can do daily care, like how someone was saying earlier, like the daily care, you know, feeding, meds, stuff like that. What I need to work on is, you know, I get impatient too. I have to keep explaining the same thing over and over again. Sometimes, you know, 5 minutes later, you can't do this, and then she does it again, you know, like minutes later. You know, my dad lives with us still, so, you know, they're together, and, you know, he doesn't have what she has, but he forgets sometimes, and he still approaches her as if she's the same wife he's had for 50 whatever years he's been married. I don't think, a long time. You know, they bicker a lot, and it just makes her worse. So I have to go in there and constantly remind him, you know, not to yell at her, not to do this, because she starts to behave a certain way when that happens, and it's just like, you know, I'm working, I work from home remote certain days, so like to deal with that while I'm working is, I just get so frustrated, and sometimes I don't even want to go to deal with that. So it's just like, so I get really impatient, and I just have to constantly remind him and remind myself that it's her disease, it's not her, you know. But sometimes it's like, you know, you just don't want to deal with it. So and I had trouble asking for help. That too. I rarely ask my sister for help. She lives in Philadelphia. I have to give her notice for help, and you know, I just don't even bother doing it really anymore. So it's like all on us. There's not really many people I can ask for help. So it's just a lot of, you know, stress and pressure. To go out with my daughters and family. We have teenage daughters. We can't even go out for dinner or anything anymore. You know, it's just difficult. Sorry.
No,
I apologize.
please.
We can't even go to church like together sometimes because one of us has to stay home with them. Anyway, it's just very hard to do anything together. You know. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Anyway, so it's just I have to start asking for help. Like maybe I don't know. I just have to do it. It's just hard, you know.
Thank you for being so open.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Sorry.
So I'm her husband, so we share a lot of the same issues. The strength for me, I think, is just getting things done. So it's sort of the steps we need to do, 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to the next day. And because, you know, we're dealing with 2 of them. So I think that's a strength for me because I can just get through the day and get them what needs to be done. The weakness there is that I think for myself, is a lack of empathy because I'm not very, not being caring to them in a way. You know, I'm getting them to where they got to do or providing for them, but not providing that humanistic aspect of it, right? And with her mother, we used to have a very good relationship, rapport. You know, I could joke and talk with her and things like that. It's kind of gone downhill a little bit just because the dynamics have changed where she sees me more as the parent. Okay, so it's not like before. So because of that, I really look at it as if she, in some ways, I'm the parent, she's the child, because she sees that. Because I see little things where she recalls the emotional aspect of it. This is not something I should be doing. So, but she wants to do it, so she hides it. But you know, it's not that I'm telling her you can't do that because I don't want you to do it. It's because for whatever reason, let's say it's she's compiling trash or something like that, right? So so things like that. So for something like that, for that example, I don't even bring it up anymore. A lot of times, you know, I just go in and because she stores used tissues and things in her drawer. So I just go in and I can't clear it out. But really, I think my biggest weakness is that the lack of empathy, or giving empathy to them. So the father, is a little bit different because he can still relate. I can have discussion, he can understand things, and he's a bit machismo.
Oh, yeah.
So he will, if we say something, he won't take stock when she says it.
Yeah.
If I said, oh, all of a sudden, oh,
Good guy.
Yeah.
wow, that's the greatest thing ever said. But it's the same exact thing verbatim she just said. So, so we can make some headway there with him there, but it's just, we try to support each other, but it's difficult. And for me, when they moved into our home about a year and a half, 2 years ago, they took my home office. So
Yeah, we didn't have an extra bedroom, so we just put the doors on his home office.
Mhm.
So what happened was, so then basically I'm in the living room,
His office.
which is not my home office, and she said we're both remote, but we're hybrid, so we take days someone's home, the other one's at the office, and vice versa. So it's difficult for me. So she works upstairs in our bedroom, but because my stuff is downstairs, I'm constantly
Yeah.
involved within their space. If they're bickering, I'm gonna hear it.
Mhm.
They show. I mean, I jest about it a lot, but they tend to be participants in my Zoom meetings. But I kind of, the ghost walking through, and I'll blur it, but then
Yeah.
when they get close, all of a sudden their head shows up with their body. So
But
it's,
they know his job that.
yeah, I mean, my company knows. It's just, it's the course of, but it's just, I'm always on with them.
Yeah.
In a sense, right? So that's difficult for me because I really have.
Doesn't have a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm working and they're still there. And if, let's say 8 hours at home working, I'm really working 4 hours and 4 hours being with them. So
They say it a lot with COVID, but the new norm, but comes with the dementia too. So as we went around and shared, what's the theme we kind of see with strengths? Planning is definitely seemed like a lot of people had that check. I got it.
It felt like the task side of it was the strength, and sometimes the emotional support was
Mhm.
the area where we were struggling.
That was going to be my next question, where we saw the difficulties being, and understanding that sometimes the tasks are easier because there isn't emotions in it; it's just finite, and that there is some grief that comes along with the emotional side, and the new norm, and new roles, and roles reversing, and accepting, and having empathy, and having grace for yourself as well going through this. Why do you think it's important to know your strengths and be aware of the things that are a struggle or a hurdle for you?
I think it helps you when you're building your team, whatever that team looks like, right? Let people play to their strengths, including you.
Awesome.
And figuring out what you can handle and what, if anything, you can outsource.
Being aware of what you can handle and what you need support in. Great. Anybody else have anything to share to that or add? So what I want you guys to do is write down one area that stands out as an area you want to explore in terms of need for support. So right now you're going to not going to focus on solutions, just identify one area that you need help with. I'm going to let that be a very personal thing, but I want you to keep that, because when we end the session, I'm going to ask you to have homework. And your homework, I want to correlate with that as well. So we're going to look at the next video. And this is us really understanding what dementia is and the different types.
Dementia. It's actually an umbrella term. It's a collection of symptoms that fit under the umbrella category. So it's a syndrome. It's not a diagnosis. Yeah, I actually said that. It's not actually the identification of a specific condition. It's a collection of symptoms. And an umbrella that nobody wants to be under. But the reality is, once you acknowledge this is what we're working with, then I can start to wrap my arms around, okay, so what are some possible conditions someone might have that would give me some indicators of how I might more specifically provide support and help, and what can I do that would cover everything under the umbrella? And it turns out the more you know, the better you can provide the support and care for yourself and the person you care about.
So what is your gut reaction to the fact that dementia can be caused by so many different things?
I had no knowledge of, like, it never impacted our family on either side. So for me, it was like, what is happening? And I didn't realize that there were so many different categories,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to eliminate those things that did not apply to finally come to the actual diagnosis that fit him. I'm using the term diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
one of those categories
Yeah.
that fit him, because he is so young and was so young.
Oh.
It was difficult to
So
digest that.
absolutely hard knowing that there is so many different forms, and sometimes not knowing exactly what form it is, but having an educated guess. For anybody else?
I think not being able to recognize it early. Looking back, signs were there, and I just didn't see them. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's like, what's wrong? You go to the doctor. And just being able to recognize what the symptoms were, what the signs were.
Yep. Yeah, kind of looking back and
Yeah.
saying, wow, maybe if I had known, I would have reacted different or done something different. And I'll have to be honest with you, that resonates with me personally. I had a big blowout with my father at one point, and we didn't talk for years. And when we reconnected, I've had to accept that blow up might have been dementia, and I just didn't recognize it. So thank you for sharing. Why does it help to know what it does not having answers or struggling through having answers? What does that make you feel like?
Sort of helpless sometimes.
Helpless. It's a great word.
I went through like the Kubler-Ross stages. Like I feel like I started with denial.
Mm-hmm.
My mom we had a super close relationship growing up, and I think the grief that then comes with losing that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think not having answers and so many things can cause it. Like fear is a big one for me about like, this is horrifying, and what if this is me in 40 years,
Yeah.
right? And it kind of puts you in the like resentment grief cycle
Yeah.
of like, I'll be resentful because of the position that I'm in, and then feel like guilty for feeling resentment because, oh God, if that were me,
Mm-hmm.
I would want someone to be patient with me and caring.
So it brings up a lot of emotions for you: grief, fear, resentment.
It seems like a lot of emotions are all at the same time.
Mm.
So it's a scale, a heartbeat of,
Yep.
everything at once.
It is everything at once. I think that's a great way to put it.
How can you handle, because my mother's in denial. She doesn't think she has any problems. She thinks she is okay to go about her normal business. She's not very active outside of her property.
Mhm.
Live with her, which I'm grateful for. Maybe one day a week she will still drive, which is probably going to come to an end soon. But I don't want to use the word convince, because that's never going to happen. She's very stubborn, very in her ways and stuff.
Mhm.
Do you have any kind of opinions or ways that I might be able to make her understand a little bit more about the situation.
So as we deep dive into dementia, we'll learn that there's parts of the brain that no longer have that ability to understand. That she herself is fluctuating between being cognitively aware of her own loss of abilities and not being aware of it whatsoever. So what I would say, and I kind of want to revisit this question again at another time too, but start putting yourself in those shoes, that if somebody was taking something away from you and you weren't completely on board with it, how would you want to be treated and how would you want to be addressed in that situation? So I'll let you digest that for a little bit and we'll come back to it. So when we are talking about accepting the emotions, realizing that there's a lot of unanswered, what might we do to pursue a different diagnosis, or does it matter? And it's a very personal question, so think about that. You know, for you, does it matter? Is it Alzheimer's versus vascular? Is it Lewy bodies versus frontal temporal lobe? Does it matter to you? Any feelings on that?
No, it's just not the same person. It doesn't really matter what you call it.
Oh, so for you, and I see a lot of people like shaking their heads, it doesn't matter. For some people, and again, this is where we have to accept that each journey is unique and each person is unique. Some people are a head first kind of person. They want the finite answer, and that's the grief, and that's the thing that they grieve and look at the most lost is, I don't have those finite answers. And for some, it doesn't matter because it's just the new journey. But it's good to reflect for yourself so that you can know what avenue you need to go. And, you know, there are ways to get more of a finite, is it Alzheimer's versus Lewy bodies or something like that. So now we're going to talk about, with all dementias, some non-negotiable truths. And they're not the easiest to accept, but they are the truth. It wants to play.
What's true about all dementias? And notice I said all dementias because there's actually more than one form of dementia. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but here's the thing. There are 4 things that are true about every single one of the dementias. The first thing that is true, and these are clinical truths. The first thing that's true, there's at least 2 parts of your brain that are actively dying. Actively dying. In order for it to be considered a dementia. It's not just that there's been damage to 2 parts of your brain. It's not just that chemically 2 parts of your brain are not working well. 2 parts of your brain are actively dying. Tissue is not working anymore, and the brain is showing evidence that there's deterioration, that there's degeneration. Now, the second thing that's true about all dementias is that it's progressive. It will progress. Every dementia progresses, but each progression pattern is unique to the dementia, and it's also unique to the individual because the individual is living inside this framework called them, and they're somewhat unique. The third thing that's true about all dementias is that at this point in time, we do not have a cure. We do not have a way to stop it. We do not have a way to turn it around. We don't have a way to make it go away. Now, you may hear some things that make it sound that way, but in fact, many of the things that you'll hear about help with symptoms. They can help symptoms be managed, but they don't actually change the dementia itself. And the last thing that's true about all dementias, but actually true about living as a human being, is it's terminal. I mean, there is an end point. At some point, your dementia will become so severe that your brain can't run your body anymore. And when your brain can't do that, you can't live on because your brain's in charge of everything. And so the truth is, dementia is a terminal illness. It's actually one of the leading causes of death for people who are older, and it's the 11th leading cause of death for all human being causes of death. So it's the kind of thing that, well, that's important to know, because this condition isn't just a memory problem, and it's not just something that's going to bother you. It actually will make life different. What's
So the 4 clinical truths: at least 2 parts of the brain are dying, it is progressive, it is chronic, and it is terminal. What caught you off guard? What surprised you from this list?
It's terminal. Like how does it
Terminal.
stop swallowing or like what?
It can be a very different journey. For some, it's a catastrophic fall because my mobility is impaired.
Okay.
Some is aspiration pneumonia because I can't swallow and the mechanisms are altered. Or sometimes it is the progression that my body forgets how to regulate its heart rate, its breathing rate, its ability to flush toxins out of my system. So it can look very different, but it still kind of goes back to the fact that the brain is deteriorating and thus why it's terminal. Did anything stick out for anybody else?
Just the fact that it's not just memory loss. That's what people often think about when they think about dementia or Alzheimer's. It's really 2 parts of the brain are actively dying, and I never really thought about that.
Thank you. And all right, so many people just think it's memory, but when you're talking about more than one part of the brain, there's so much else that is coming along with that. And depending on which part of the brain is why we see different characteristics and why there are different diagnoses, because it really is playing into what parts are being deteriorated first.
Why only 2 parts?
It's not necessarily only, it's at least. At least. And that's the truth, is the way progression is it kind of spreads. So how do you see these truths in the person you're caring for? Do you see any of these truths in the people that you're caring for? What?
Just regular body breakdown. My husband has lost more than 100 pounds. There's no reason for it, no cancer, no anything like that. But there's nothing wrong with his appetite.
Mm-hmm.
He eats 5 to 6 times a day. You know, little meals, not. But I mean, if I go to McDonald's and get him a sausage egg McMuffin, he fries another egg to put on top of it.
Okay. So definitely the changes in his body and that he is eating, but he is losing weight, and that is very common with dementia.
Yeah, and he has like GERD.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's spicy, citric. He's not able to eat all of that.
Yep.
So
So he has pain points when he eats too, but maybe not recognizing some of the signals.
I think my mom wouldn't eat sometimes if I didn't tell her to.
Oh.
I think sometimes she says I've eaten and she hasn't eaten. And also I think that she can't tell sometimes if it's like cold outside.
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't put on a coat if I didn't tell her to. She won't sleep with a heavy blanket. She just sleeps with a light blanket and it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
And she stops, like, she used to wear socks and slippers, and she was walking in bare feet and the floor is cold, and I'm telling her, why aren't you wearing socks? And she's like, I'm fine. But she's like going like, it's weird, you know? This is just lately, it's getting worse.
And that's, again, that brain. And so you're seeing the way they process the world around them is different. And the truth is that some of my body actually becomes hypersensitive. And that's why some people will shy away from shoes and socks or certain clothing, because the feel of it on their skin is too stimulating. And for other times, it's parts of my body are lack of awareness, that I can actually put my hand on a burning hot stove and it takes until I'm in 3rd degree burns before I realize and remove my hand. So we see those changes, and yes, they are from the brain being altered. So now that we know the 4 truths, how will this impact you as a caregiver and as a care partner?
It's became more aware
More aware.
I try to anticipate the progression. Like I try to, when he loses a skill, I try to think to myself, or I worry, I guess, what's the next thing he's gonna lose?
So you're definitely worrying about what's next.
What's next?
I think that goes back to a few people have said in their hurdles is being in the moment. And we constantly fear what's next. And yes, we have to prepare for what's next, but enjoy this moment because it is progressive. It is going to get worse. And that is a hard place to be from. Now that you've heard the truth, is there anything that you're going to change or you're going to work on as a next step as you go back and care for your loved one?
I think for me, the more I've learned about dementia, I think it has made me more resilient. I'm surprised by less when a change does happen, because I've learned what can happen, and the only good part about this is essentially unlimited mulligans.
Mm-hmm.
I am able to, if I say something and it agitates my mom, for her, it's literally 30 seconds later. I can say something different and see if that works. And something that worked great yesterday or 2 hours ago doesn't work great now, but it might work again in an hour. So I think for me, understanding the therapeutic lying part of this and the fact that it is progressive, and I can, I hope it's okay for me when you ask the question about how to kind of convince somebody. An early piece of advice I received was stop trying to get your mom to live in your reality and start living in hers. And I just stopped feeling guilty or responsible for trying to show her what actually was happening, and it completely made my life easier. Not easy, right? There's still challenges, but I would say that's something that I've walked away from is does she own horses today? Yes, she does, and they've already been fed, right? It's you can say whatever you need to say to make it easier.
And I like that you highlighted that there are some positives in this, because we do get so super focused on the negative, but there are chances to do it again and to try something a little bit different and learn to have a plan A through Z and be a little flexible. But we're human, and when we have a turn it into an aha and okay, I can grow from this. So thank you for sharing. So we're going to go into really looking at dementia and the actual person, and I'm going to stop recording.